Hello everybody. Welcome back to another video. In today's damn. In today's video we're going to be going over the fire weather outlook. This is something I have not done before, but it is something that I was thinking about doing, and I would like to do it since there is pertinent fire weather in the forecast. Fire weather consists of these delineations on the risk level. Let's start from the top. Wind and relative humidity. We have elevated, which means there is a somewhat higher risk of fires. However, the risk is not too bad. It is enough to warrant a risk zone, though. Critical, where wind could be more amplified and relative humidity could be less amplified, to the point where substantial potential substantial fires could erupt, and a potential wildfire outbreak could ensue, and then extreme. Extreme you never want to be under and you never want to see. Extreme risks of fire indicate that the winds are blazing, they're soaring, and they're plowing through areas with very little to no relative humidity. That is not good. Never. And then dry thunderstorms. A dry thunderstorm is a thunderstorm that is very active in terms of lightning, but has basically no rain. There's no precipitation, and lightning is just dryly striking things. We have isolated dry thunderstorms and then scattered dry thunderstorms. The main difference is the coverage of these thunderstorms. Isolated is, well, isolated, where things are contained into a specific area, and then scattered is scattered, where things are strewn about. Uh, uh, there's really no other way for me to explain that. It's pretty self-explanatory, in my opinion, but, if you're ever doubting something, look it up. It's what my mother's uncle would say. When in doubt, look it up. Anyways, so here's the fire weather for today. We have a risk of fire from Nevada all the way down to Arizona. I'm gonna need a tissue, so just hold on a second. Alrighty. We are back. We are back. So again, like I was saying, there is an elevated risk of uh, fires from Nevada all the way down to Arizona. Uh, it says no risk areas because the elevated risk is kind of like the equivalent of the general thunderstorm risk in terms of fire. Uh, so no changes are needed. See previous discussion. So, awesome. So this was technically the previous discussion, but nothing really has changed. So this is going to be the discussion. Even though this discussion was noted on the previous forecast update, it still goes hand in hand with recent data that's coming in right now. So, Yeah, anyways, synopsis. An upper-level trough is forecast to move over the northwest coast, increasing mid-level southwesterly flow across the northern Rockies and portions of the Great Basin. Damn. A second and weaker upper low and associated moisture will move from northern Mexico into the southern plains. While the flow aloft will be weak over much of the southwest, hot and dry conditions will support elevated fire weather potential. If I didn't tell you already, I am sick. Some sickness, probably sinusitis, a start of a sinus infection, something is burdening me, and so that's why I sound like this. But I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to make the content for y'all, no matter how, quote, crappy it may be, because I don't have a lot of energy. But I still would like to make content, so, yep. Anyways, so, where the heck am I at? Yeah. Even I'm lost, and I know what I'm doing. The Great Basin in the southwest. To the immediate south of the belt of stronger mid-level flow, stagnant mid-level heights will promote a very warm and dry air mass across much of the southern Great Basin and the southwest. Very low daytime relative humidities, near 10% to the upper single digits, are expected amid 10 to 15 mile per hour terrain-driven winds, and exacerbated by poor overnight humidity recoveries and drying fuels. These conditions will support elevated fire weather concerns across northwest Arizona, southeastern Nevada, and southwestern Utah through the afternoon hours. Farther east into parts of western New Mexico, mid-level moisture associated with the upper low over northern Mexico will promote isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms through the afternoon. Steep low-level lapse rates and high cloud bases will favor limited precipitation efficiency. This could allow for drier thunderstorms. However, fuels over the area are less receptive owing to recent precipitation. Still, the occasional lightning starts are possible within locally drier fuel beds. Alright, so that's for today, Friday, June 5th. You could see at the top of the screen, top left-hand corner. This is for tomorrow. We have a critical risk introduced from California to Wyoming, and then the elevated risk is continued from Wyoming down to Arizona and California. Some larger population centers in the critical risk area include Las Vegas, Henderson, Paradise, Sunrise Manor, and North Las Vegas, Nevada. So, critical fire weather area for portions of the Great Basin and the Southwest. Synopsis. The upper trough over the northwest is forecast to deepen and intensify as it spreads eastward into the northern Rockies and southern Canada on Saturday. A belt of stronger mid-level flow will move southeastward, overspreading a dry and hot air mass over much of the western United States. This will promote widespread elevated and critical fire weather conditions atop dry fuels from the Great Basin to the southwest, the Great Basin, the Intermountain West, and the Southwest. As the upper trough over the Northwest and Northern Rockies intensifies, a belt of stronger flow will overspread the hot and dry surface conditions across the western United States. The mid-level jet maximum will aid in efficient mixing of strong winds to the surface. Sustained southwest winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour are anticipated. With continued poor overnight recoveries, relative humidity values are in the single digits, or relative humidity values in the single digits and the low teens are expected on a widespread basis. Sustained critical fire weather conditions are expected across portions of eastern Nevada, southern Utah, and northern Arizona. Weaker flow aloft, farther south, and east will still promote widespread elevated conditions with 10 to 20% relative humidities and surface gusts of 15 to 20 miles per hour, potentially enhanced by local terrain across southern Arizona into the Four Corners. Some potential for brief critical conditions may develop given the drawing fuels and increasing burn period durations. Idaho in the northern Rockies. Ascent from the upper trough will impinge on the western edge of surface moisture, moving westward into the higher terrain. This ascent and diurnal heating could support isolated thunderstorm development across southern and eastern Iowa, and likely high-based, these fast-moving storms will have limited precipitation efficiency. Isolated dry lightning strikes would be possible. Currently, convection appears more likely farther northeast where moisture is more robust. Okay, that's for tomorrow. This is the day 3 to 8 outlook. So we have a lot to look at. There are a ton of outlooks, and they all say random letters and numbers. One says D3, one says D4, D5, and D6. D means day, so it means day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and there's also day 7 and day 8. And if you're probably wondering why there's two, then it's because of this. So dry thunderstorms, low relative humidity, and wind create a ton of things. Let's look at the categorical outlook first. This is day 3. Day 3 for Sunday includes portions of Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California. This is day 4. Day 4 is a different color. Day 4 includes Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Nevada. This is day 5. Day 5 is again a different color. Day 5 consists of a fire risk from Nevada and Utah to Arizona. This is day 6. Day 6 is a different color. It just contains Utah and Arizona. Day 7, there's nothing. In day 8, there's also nothing on the categorical outlook. Dry thunderstorms, lower relative humidities, and wind values. There's percentages. It's weighed based on percentages. This is day 3 on Sunday. There's a 70% risk from which kind of if you the 70% equals a critical risk. So the 70% is going to be the critical risk. The 40% is going to be the elevated risk. So that's a 70%. This is a 70% with the 40% from, Wyoming to Mexico. This is day 5. Again, a critical risk. And then an elevated from Wyoming to Mexico. This is day 6 from Wyoming to Mexico. It's like the same thing. Day 7 from Wyoming to Arizona. Yet there's no critical risk. And then day 8, the probability is too low. So let's just refresh this. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Awesome. So the risk zones, day 3, 4, 5, 6. There's also days 7 and 8, and they are all delineated at the bottom. Day 3 through 5, or day 3 through 8 weather outlook. So we have a lot to read. Many paragraphs of stuff. So, synopsis. The primary driver of synoptic fire weather risks shifts eastward entering the weekend. On Saturday, wait a second. Did I read? Uh, uh, yeah, I did. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm just very out of it today. Uh, Finally, synopsis. The primary driver of synoptic fire weather risks shifts eastward entering the weekend. On Saturday, a potent upper-level trough, having advanced from the northern Pacific, will move over the Pacific Northwest. A cold front associated with this feature will progress southeastward across the western third of the United States. This front will introduce a major air mass transition, dropping daytime temperatures below the seasonal norm and temporarily dampening fire risks across much of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. By Sunday, this initial trough shifts northeast over the northern Rockies. However, the tight surface pressure gradient ahead of the front, coupled with enhanced mid-level westerly to southwesterly flow, will maximize fire weather concerns across central and southern portions of the Intermountain West. Broad southwesterly flow dominates early next week before another, potentially stronger, deeper progressive trough is modeled to impact the western half of the CONUS or contiguous United States by midweek. Differing solutions exist as to how far south the system will dive as it moves across the western CONUS. Okay. So I just realized that this was actually issued on Thursday yesterday. So yeah, I just realized that just now. So uh, the dates are a little bit off. Um, we're still talking about the same days. It's just that they're shifted just a little bit. Great Basin, Southwest, and Rocky Mountains. Day 3, Saturday. As the primary upper level trough carves into the Pacific Northwest, a tightening surface pressure gradient will develop across the Great Basin and the Southwest. A mid-level jet max will mix down efficiently to the surface due to deep daytime boundary layer mixing. Sustained southwest winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour are anticipated. Coincident relative humidity values will plummet into the single digits in the low teens, generally widespread between 6% and 12%. A 70% probability of critical fire weather conditions has been introduced across portions of eastern Nevada, southern Utah, and northern Arizona, where critical thresholds are expected to be met for multiple consecutive hours. Surrounding areas of the Great Basin and the Four Corners region maintain a 40% critical probability as fuels continue to dry rapidly and burn periods lengthen under continued high vapor pressure deficits. While the confidence is not high enough to warrant a drawn area, portions of southern Idaho will have opportunities to experience a mix of fast-moving dry thunderstorms and wet thunderstorms. Day 4, Sunday. The upper-level trough tracks northeastward towards the northern Rockies, pushing the trailing cold front further south and east. Strong mid-level flow continues over the southern tier of the system. The belt of strongest winds will shift slightly eastward, impacting eastern Utah, northern and eastern Arizona, and western Colorado. Expect sustained southwest winds of 20 to 25 miles per hour. A dry slot aloft will keep minimum relative humidity values critically low between 8 and 15% across the southern Rockies and Southwest. The 70% critical probabilities remain highlighted across southern and eastern Utah northern Arizona, and western Colorado. 40% critical probabilities encompass the remaining portions of southeast Nevada, northwest New Mexico, and central Wyoming, where fuels are receptive. While confidence is not yet high enough to warrant a drawn area, a non-zero chance of mixed dry and wet thunderstorms over northern Utah will be watched with future forecast guidance. Monday, day 5. The region enters a temporary synoptic transition phase between the departing northern Rockies trough and the next approaching Pacific system. And while the core of the mid-level jet weakens slightly and the surface pressure gradient slackens, broad and persistent southwesterly flow remains established over the southwest and Great Basin. Deep mechanical mixing under clear skies will still generate locally breezy conditions with 15 to 25 mile per hour gusts alongside persistent hot and dry air. Given the prolonged absence of moisture and highly susceptible fine fuels, an additional 70% critical probability was introduced once again over portions of southern Utah, northern Arizona, and nearby far southeastern Nevada, and 40% critical probabilities encompass the remaining portions of southeast Nevada, western Colorado, and central Wyoming where fuels are receptive. Day 6 Tuesday through Day 7 Wednesday. Medium-range global deterministic models and their respective ensembles show strong consensus for a secondary, potentially more intense trough digging into the western U.S. again by midweek. Ahead of this feature, a renewed and amplified pressure gradient will trigger strong south-southwest surface winds. This will likely cause continued widespread critical fire weather conditions across a large swath of the Great Basin and the Southwest, and thus 70% critical probabilities were introduced yet again over portions of southern Utah and northern Arizona where the confidence is highest. The existing 40% critical probability continues Tuesday and Wednesday in nearby areas, including far eastern Nevada, western Colorado, and portions of central Wyoming. And expect this risk area to be significantly expanded in spatial coverage and potentially extended later into the week as forecast guidance converges on the exact timing and track of this secondary upper level low. All right, that's it. That's it, everybody. Have a great day.